Good evening, and welcome to the 3rd Legislative District Telephone Town Hall. Tonight, you'll be hearing from your local lawmakers, Senator Marcus Riccelli, Representative Timm Ormsby, and Representative Natasha Hill. Press 0 on your phone right now or anytime during this event to get connected with a volunteer and ask your question. My name's Megan, and I'll be your moderator tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, press 0 on your phone to take part in this dialogue. To get started, I'll open it up for some brief opening remarks from Representative Ormsby. Rep. Ormsby, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Megan, and thank you for all of you that are joining us remotely. We're on the Capitol campus in Olympia. My name is Timm Ormsby, proudly serving the 3rd Legislative District, and my committee assignments are the Appropriations Committee is the committee assignment I have, and I have the honor of chairing that committee, the largest committee in the legislature, and we're productive and get a lot of stuff done, and I would like to turn it over to my seatmates who are joining me in the room here at the Capitol, starting with Representative Marcus Riccelli.
Well, hello. It's great to hear all of you, and great to be doing this tonight. A robust democracy can only exist with an active and engaged citizenry. We're super appreciative that people are giving up some of their time. So I'm Senator Marcus Riccelli. I'm in my first year in the state Senate. I served 12 years in the House. My committee assignments are health and long-term care. I serve on the State Government Committee, and I serve on the Ways and Means Committee. I also serve on a committee called the Rules Committee, and I was elected by my colleagues to be the Senate Majority Floor Leader. And just a true honor to represent this community, to serve with this group of legislators, and we are waking up every day here in session figuring out how we can improve the lives of folks in Spokane and across our state. And with that, I'll turn it over to Representative Natasha Hill.
Thank you. Representative Natasha Hill here. I'm really excited. This is my first town hall with these two very experienced members that I get to, legislators, I should say, now that we have Marcus over in the Senate. This is, again, my first town hall, and I'm really excited to be serving here in the House, really proud of Spokane. I am serving on our Housing Committee as Vice Chair, also serving on Early Learning Human Services and our Capital Budget Committee. As the first person of color, first Black member to be sent from Spokane over to the House, I also get to be a voice in our Legislative Black Caucus, which is the largest Black caucus in Western United States, meaning, yes, we're bigger than California, so we get to have that as one of our accolades. And I just want people to appreciate how important it is that our side of the state has a voice in these meetings, in this caucus. I'm also serving as vice chair for our Members of Color Caucus. And so, again, really strengthening our delegation over here, really excited to be able to serve in these committees, and really excited to bring new representation to Spokane.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction. Just as a reminder to everybody who's joining us on the call, press 0 on your phone to be able to ask a question. We're going to get started tonight while we have people join and start calling in to ask their questions. We're going to get started with having all of the members talk about one bill that you're really excited about this session.
I'm happy to jump in first. So there's a bill that I have been working on, and it removes medical debt from credit score reporting. And we know that credit scores can really impact jobs people get, their ability to rent a home, and have all kinds of other things that really impact day-to-day lives. And, most Washingtonians, in fact, 6 out of 10 Washingtonians can't afford a $500 a medical emergency. And so really, for folks who are paying their bills, this could be something that could really throw them into hardship, financial hardship. And so I'm really pleased to be working on that. I've worked with folks who would traditionally maybe have some concerns, the debt collectors, the hospital association, the medical association, to get them to either supportive positions or neutral positions. And again, I just don't think this should really impact we don't know the day we're going to wake up and maybe have a medical emergency, and then to also be sent into financial ruin or potentially lose a home or other things. Those kinds of impacts are not things that I think should happen. So I'm pleased to be working on that bill, and it's in the Rules Committee, and hoping that it'll come out and we'll make it eligible for a floor vote, and we'll move it on over to the House.
I'll jump in behind you, Marcus, since, and this is Natasha Hill speaking. We have a bill that also looks at credit. A little bit different. It's not a companion bill, but I think it's very complementary to what you just spoke about. House Bill 1927, I prime sponsored with our housing chair, Representative Peterson. This is a bill that would get positive credit reporting for renters who are making on-time rent payments. This is a way that all folks, but particularly our young folks who are moving out, can establish good credit rating without having to go into debt by taking credit card debt in order to build and establish credit. That bill was heard in our Housing Committee this week. It is going to be set for executive hearing this week as well, so we can move that forward. We've got some good support on both sides for this bill. It was a nice, robust hearing just to hear what a positive impact something like this would have on renters. These are folks who typically are not able to, build a good credit history for a pathway toward home ownership, but also other things like cars, credit cards. This will help reduce their interest rate, but also free up opportunity to get more credit and be able to do more for folks who are small businesses, entrepreneurs. This is another thing that could be a great asset for folks in our community. So really excited about moving this bill forward. We know not a lot of things come free. And one of the things I mentioned in the hearing was, you go to fast food restaurants, we don't even get condiments for free anymore, right? We got folks out here paying for mustard, and if you know, you know.
This is Timm Ormsby. This is not a bill that I'm running, but I'm very excited. One of my keen interests since coming to the legislature has been in child welfare, which is our youth in foster care. And those are literally wards of the state. They are literally the state's children. We're responsible for them. It's a responsibility that we, as the guardians of these youth, we need to take care of them. And this bill is about housing as youth transition from foster care out on their own, and making sure that they have a soft landing, just as parents would help their 23-year-old with down payment assistance if they were buying a house, or the cost associated with renting a place for the first time, first and last month's rent, damage deposit, etc. I'm excited about the prospect of having these folks who are our responsibility land softly as they enter the world outside of foster care.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing what your top or one of your favorite bills of the session is. Hello, everyone. I'm Megan, your moderator for this evening. Just a reminder for those who are joining us on the call, press 0 if you have a question for your 3rd Legislative District lawmakers. First, we're going to go to an online question submitted by Stephanie. Stephanie asks, what legislative actions do you support to increase affordable housing availability in our district?
I'll go ahead and jump in on this one because housing is such a priority right now. We know that we've got to increase supply, bring down costs, and increase pathways to home ownership. And so the bill that we're championing this session, House Bill 1217 and Companion Senate Bill 5222, are our rent stabilization bills. These bills are intended to help keep more folks in their home. It's going to reduce the amount of eviction filings that we're seeing, and ultimately keep people housed. We have an unhoused population that we also have to provide for and meet the needs of, and we don't need that population to increase during the time that we're really trying to build out our housing supply so that more folks can not just afford rent, but again, that pathway to home ownership, where we know that home ownership is the way that we build, primary way we build generational wealth in this country. But if folks can't even afford to pay rent and they can't stay in a home, that's definitely not going to enable them to save for the future in order to afford to buy their own home. So really excited about this bill that's moving forward. It's something that we brought back from last session, and being vice chair on housing, I've got to play, a role in making sure that we do move this forward.
I would just add, we have some updated statistics from the 3rd Legislative District, and over 41% of people in our legislative district are renters. But I think what's more concerning is that nearly 43% of those renters pay more than 35% of their household income on rent. And so we need to make concrete steps to really make housing more affordable. I think there's some things we're doing too, and like Representative Hill, and again, this is State Senator Marcus Riccelli, but like Representative Hill said, building equity, I think, is key to all this. So stair-stepping opportunities. I'm supportive of things we've done in the past, looking at condo liability reform so people can, start with smaller steps, build up equity, start that small business, or move to a more a home as their family grows potentially. I also just think we need to focus on the housing stock. And so our capital budget is something that we are all continuing to weigh in on and making sure that we can make sure more folks have access to affordable housing. And we know they're not going to thrive unless they have a roof over their head. And so we're here working on this. I think it's broadly a goal, even in a bipartisan way. How we get there, we might have some differences, but it's very bipartisan here in Olympia right now to figure out how we can add to the housing stock and make housing more affordable.
And just quickly, adding to Representative Hill and Senator Riccelli, I think one of the key things we can do for folks back home is stabilize the document recording fee, which is something that goes to provide homeless services for unhoused folks, and also those transitioning to permanent supportive housing and as their lives stabilize. So this is a front of mind issue, as you heard from Representative Hill and Senator Riccelli. It's a front of mind issue for all members, and a lot of creative ideas are coming out of all of the concentrated efforts on this. Looking forward to making progress and actually pointing to the things that we've done as making improvements over time.
Thank you so much for your responses. Just as a reminder to those who are joining us on the call tonight, you're speaking with your 3rd Legislative District lawmakers, and if you have a question for them, press 0 on your phone to take part in this dialogue. We're going to go to our first live question from Kayla. Kayla has a question about special education funding. Kayla, you should now be live.
Yes, hi. Is there some work being done to solidify access to programs like ECAP and IEP individual education plans? My son has autism, and we have an IEP, and with the Department of Education kind of being up in the air, is there any work being done for future access to that?
Is your son in ECAP, Kayla?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and so we've done good things in the past on special education IEPs for younger folks in the ECAP and working connection space, and also in K-12, because those youngsters are going to grow up and be mainstream. I think it is a high priority, regardless of your political affiliation, to help folks get all the education that every kid deserves to get, regardless of whatever special needs they have. And we spend a lot of time talking with educators and amongst ourselves, and there are several efforts afloat to broaden access for folks with special needs in the education system in general.
I'll just add briefly, I'm sitting on the Early Learning Human Services Committee, and we know that there's a lot coming out in terms of what potential funding issues we're going to have at the state level, at the federal level. Our goal is to support this as much as we can and look at ways that we can raise revenue. So if there is cuts, if there is pausing, that we're also going to look at ways that we can put back into the system. One of the ways that we are addressing this concern of having enough slots open, and particularly in Spokane, where we've opened up quite a few ECAP and TK classrooms in our public schools so that there is more access, more availability, and really balancing that out with the child care needs across all sectors. So we are looking to really support families best we can in these times that are a little bit uncertain.
Thank you so much for your responses. Just as a reminder, you can press 0 on your phone to ask your 3rd District lawmakers a question. We're now going to go to a live question from Cheryl. I believe Cheryl has a question about the federal situation. Cheryl, you should now be live.
Hi, I'm just curious about our Social Security, our Medicaid, our Medicare. These people are just gutting everything in our government, anti-American all the way. I'm an American, raised here, born here. I don't understand this, and I just like some clarification from the Democratic Party that you guys are doing something to get rid of this, to stop this.
No, thanks, Cheryl. Washington, we're obviously trying to put things in place to be a first line of defense. It was very concerning when federal government tried to put a stop to Medicaid payments recently, when we're looking at some of the policies that are being promoted at the national level. We're doing what we can, and honestly, as we moved towards this potential, we were doing things to enshrine things in federal law at the state level, but it's very uncertain, and so we're looking at the policies kind of step by step, looking at ways where we can harden what we do, that we support here as Washingtonians, making sure that we're staying true to our values and pushing back. And that includes, as you know, our AG filing several lawsuits and being victorious already. So we're going to continue to stand up for the working people of Washington. We're going to continue to stand up for the rights that we know are things that we should be protecting here in our state. And while we will look for ways we can work with the administration, I think we'll also be very loud and proud about making sure that we're standing up for our values. And what Washingtonians is that is clear when they sent us back here and to do this job on behalf of the folks we represent.
Yeah, several efforts are out, Cheryl, and your observation, very accurate, very keen observation. We're uncertain about what's going to end up happening, but we are knowing that is in our peripheral vision, that we have to watch our flank about what federal government activities are going to impact us and impact our ability to improve the lives of the people we're here to represent. I will give, just as Senator Riccelli said, high marks to Attorney General Nick Brown in his first couple months on the job, has already been successful in thwarting a bunch of those efforts, and he is joined by several other attorneys general across the country to do this. He is like our first line of defense, and we have experienced some of those delays coming to the state for low-income health care in the Medicaid space, et cetera. I hope that the promises that were made during the presidential campaign about keeping their hands off of services to seniors, they keep.
Great. Thank you so much. Just as a reminder, please press 0 to get into the queue to ask a question. We're now going to go to a live question from Greg around the Boys and Men's Commission. Greg, you should now be live.
Hello, my name is Greg Naker, and I'm the outreach coordinator for an organization called Spokane Fatherhood Initiative. We help dads stay involved in their kids' lives and be great parents. There's a bipartisan bill right now that's about establishing a commission on boys and men, and we think a commission like this is really needed. We're very grateful to you, Senator Riccelli and Representative Ormsby, for co-sponsoring it. The bill number is SB 5446 and HB 1266. And by the way, Representative Hill, we'd love to have a chance to speak with you about it, but it's gaining a lot of support each year, but it hasn't gotten a public hearing in state government. Can you talk about what motivated you to support the concept of a commission on boys and men and share any insights about what it'll take to get a hearing for this bill?
I'm happy to jump in, and I was pleased to co-sponsor Senator Loveck's bill. I think last year when it was being kind of socialized with folks, there was some potential thoughts that it was doing something else. I think it's very clear. I think the statistics, that young men are facing and boys are facing a lot of mental health challenges and a lot of other things statistically are something that need to be part of the policy interventions and the funding that we look at as we're trying to bring everybody up and lift everybody up. So for me, as the father of both a younger son and daughter, there's a lot of issues that are similar. There's a lot of issues that are unique, and I think that we should be very inclusive in how we're trying to look at these. But for me, I come from a healthcare perspective. I think, our young people are facing mental health challenges today like in no other time in our history.
Yeah, this is Timm Ormsby, Greg. I want to thank you for your efforts to keep families strong and fathers' relationship with their kids. I think, as Senator Riccelli alluded to, this is a matter of socializing the need for this. I am not privy to what is going on with in the ins and outs of the state government committee, and I don't think any of us sit on that or similar. So I can't answer the question about why it's not happening, but I think a lot of times good concepts take a while to catch on, to get traction, and I think the support is growing, as you noted.
I do want to say, you asked kind of what inclined me to sign on, and that was what we are, interested in doing tonight, hearing from folks, and it was a meeting with a mom who had her son unfortunately commit suicide, and it was very compelling, along with the other evidence and discussion. And that's what these community connections and meetings mean for us, and help inform our decisions.
And good point from Senator Riccelli. I think it is important for constituents, particularly when we're not in the legislative session, to reach out on issues important in their lives, because it's a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere, and we have a little bit more time, and we can dive a little bit deeper.
And I just add briefly, being the woman here who did not actually sign on to support this bill, I do think it's important, especially from organizations like yours, which I am familiar with, to really reach out beyond, and meet with other orgs so that we have a better understanding of what the goals are to accomplish it. I think sometimes we get caught up in optics that this looks like a prioritization or focus on men's rights without delving into the layers that you're referencing, where these are real concerns and real issues. When we're also in a climate where there's direct attacks against women and people of color, our immigrant communities. So I just wanted to be candid about my impression of the bill being very different than my delegation who just spoke, because we have so many interests that are competing right now, and we have such big budget issues. Sometimes we just need more information, more clarification, more storytelling behind what was the genesis for this, right? So that we're not having bad optics or not seeing the full picture of what's being accomplished here, because it is hard to come into a situation where you're seeing some language, you're not really sure, and you want to make sure we're not missing the priorities right now that are being directly attacked. But we also don't want to ignore the impact of these folks and these families. And so, again, not to minimize the concerns and issues that this bill is looking to address, but I do think that looking beyond creating a commission for men and looking at ways to incorporate these issues into other existing policy around equity and inclusion would be another way that could also help us meet the goals that this bill is trying to meet.
Thank you so much for your responses. Just as a reminder, please press 0 if you have a question for your 3rd Legislative District lawmakers. We're now going to go to an online question from Lilia. Lilia says, immigrants contribute greatly to our economy, but many can't get health insurance. What can you do about it?
Oh, thank you for the question, Lilia. I'll begin. This is Timm Ormsby. We started an effort in Washington State 2 years ago in 2023 to create a lookalike program for undocumented low-income folks that would be kind of a look kind of similar to Medicaid, only our undocumented folks, unfortunately, are not eligible to receive federal Medicaid. And we put quite a bit of state resources towards this effort. Unfortunately, it's a capped amount of people that we can cover, even with a $250 million investment. It's been challenging. Now that is part of what we're trying to maintain, is access for immigrants to basic health care particularly if they don't have the means to, get health insurance, et cetera. This is what we can do to really big contributors to our state's economy and to our state's culture.
I know we've been hearing stories, and I actually want to make sure I give Senator Riccelli an opportunity to speak to this as well. We're hearing directly from constituents and people in the community what's happening, and so we know that this is really uncertain times. I know we keep saying that, but it's really scary. It's impacting people directly, and we're seeing the support at the city level. And so I want you all to know that you're being supported by your representatives and your senators here at the state level as well. But there's a lot that we can't control. We do have our, Keeping Families Working legislation. We're really trying to make sure that we do as much as we can to offset the harm and damage that's being caused by the federal legislation that's coming out. And really helping our community members find resources and stay as connected as possible. So when we can address these, or however we are able to address these, we can do it as quickly as possible. So I want to hand it off to Senator
thanks, Representative Hill. This is Senator Riccelli, and it's been an interesting couple of weeks firsthand. I shared a story about my soccer teammate Alberto, who was getting a haircut on the South Hill and was picked up by ICE, and within hours was in Kootenai County. And then was within 24 hours was in the Tacoma Detention Center. He's Nicaraguan. He fled for fear of his life, and he works at a local auto dealer. He's a contributing member of our society, and he's not a criminal. And this is what we were not told any of this at the national level. And he's a father of 3 kids. He's a husband, and I just think right now one of the best things we have done is we've put some dollars into legal aid to help out folks to make sure that they're fairly represented and they're treated fairly. And I also think from a workforce standpoint, those who are, following the rules or they're seeking asylum, to see them targeted is, I think, really concerning. So we'll continue to shine a light on that and look for ways that we can support our communities and honestly help support our needed workforce too.
And I know our moderator is going to jump back in because we all answered, but please send in your stories. Please tell us what's going on and what's happening. Share it with your legislators. Share it with the governor. Make sure we're hearing from you because we need to know what's happening at the ground level. That's going to help better inform our policy and how we are able to respond. So I just really encourage folks to let us know what's happening because we are here to support.
Great. Thank you so much. We're now going to go to a live question from Gretchen. Gretchen has a question on Senate Bill 5113. Gretchen, you should now be live.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank, Senator Riccelli is supporting Senate Bill 5113 that deals with COLAs for Plan 1 PERS and TERS retirees. And as I think all of you know, and maybe Natasha doesn't yet, but she will soon, that we have been trying to get an automatic COLA like all of the other retirement plans, and it's in the Ways and Means now, and it had a hearing in the committee, but it hasn't moved since January 23rd. And so is there any chance that this could make it out of committee and perhaps even be passed? Because since 2011, we have gained about 14% in because of inflation, but the other plans have gained about 37%, and we're losing ground on our purchasing power.
Yeah, thanks for the question. This is Senator Riccelli, and very familiar with the bill. Also, my mom's a retired teacher, and I appreciate the continued advocacy. We did actually pass a bill out of Ways and Means recently. It was a merger bill. I know that makes some folks not thrilled. We came back here to try and do the best. We're in challenging budget times, and that would, at this point, combine Left One system, the PERS and TERS One systems together, and look at ways that we could have move forward with a COLA for the teachers. That's one solution that's being considered. I think this is a piece that I know it's difficult and challenging to come back here every year and be asking for this. And, I'm looking for a way and a solution that we can move forward. And there's going to be multiple things on the table, and I'll continue to advocate for it. But, some of the decisions are challenging, and nothing's really in tough budget times, nothing's getting like the 100% support, but, we didn't come back here to get hired to just get all easy decisions in front of us.
Yeah, and thanks for the question, Gretchen. This is Timm Ormsby, and I think if you'll look for Senator Robinson bill in the retirement space, maybe not the one specifically that goes for PERS and TERS 1 COLA, I believe embedded in that bill is an ongoing increase. If I'm not mistaken, it's a Senate bill. I'm not intimately familiar with it, but having been briefed, I understand that is a component. And we're also looking, I know you're interested in the ongoing nature of it. We are also looking at doing, as we have for several consecutive years, doing an ad hoc one-time 3% increase for our Plan 1 retirees.
Great. Thank you so much for your responses. Just as a reminder, for those of us joining the call, you're on with your 3rd Legislative District lawmakers, and you can press 0 on your phone to ask a question. Next, we're going to go to a question from Lindsay about our houseless neighbors. Lindsay, you should now be live.
Hi, everyone. I am a longtime community advocate, and I'm an advocate for our parks as well, just having healthy spaces to share just space with nature, and just thinking about I want to know if there's any movement around like having a dedicated space or 3 for our houseless neighbors. I know that they're not supposed to be, Spokane voted that they're not supposed to be within so many feet of the school, but I do believe that they need somewhere to belong to, and I'm just wondering if there's any conversation around that. And I do appreciate all of the advocacy around renters and health. I think it's really important.
Thanks, Lindsay. It's a hot topic because it is, people would want to be compassionate, but they also get a little bit frustrated. I think we have in several spaces in the legislature through policy bills making sure that we're removing barriers for people being able to have a safe space to survive in is really, and I understand weather here in Olympia is not great, but it's not nearly as cold as it is back home in Spokane, and I know you've had near 0 temperatures in the last week. It's not that cold here, but it's a difficult proposition just to survive under those conditions when you're unhoused, and this is top of mind, and it's also, as Senator Riccelli alluded to in a previous question on another topic, none of these things come easy, and it is really putting your shoulder to the wheel and grinding ahead and trying to solve problems and get people to the point where they understand we're all going to give something. And I think we have to first acknowledge these folks. They're all souls, and I don't think they were created in any hierarchy that we should be able to ignore anyone. So it is a primary concern. We're just trying to get something that can gather enough support to pass through the entire process.
Yeah, and jumping in on that, this Representative Hill, our House Bill 1380 has been very controversial in terms of cities not wanting essentially us to help them out. And so I do want to speak directly to this use of public spaces because what it's attempting to do is fill a gap that we don't have any case law at this point that's going to tell us whether or not these anti-camping statutes, sit and lie type of ordinances are going to, how they're going to be treated by the courts. We've already seen, laws that have been passed in our city of Spokane to kind of address some of these issues. But what happened is there was a case that was overturned by the Supreme Court that put in place some guardrails. Basically, it said you can't criminalize the aspects or conditions of being homeless, like needing to shelter yourself outside if there's nowhere to go. There's also not a homeless shelter in every single city. So not every city has the same resources to provide for folks. So what happened is we now have these ordinances being passed since this case law was overturned. And this this House bill, what it's attempting to do is put in place an objectively reasonable standard that says we're not just going to go out willy-nilly and enforce our sit and lie statutes, our anti-camping statutes, and throw people in jail, because that's a revolving door that costs taxpayers a lot of money. We picked the objectively reasonable standard instead of setting forth specific parameters like making sure that there's space in a homeless shelter, because we know that would ignore a lot of cities who don't have those resources in their city, that they would then ship their homeless to another city and overburden them. So this objectively reasonable standard, the reason I'm giving this some lip service here is because I want folks to understand it is the exact same standard that our law enforcement uses every single day when they are looking at reasonable suspicion, when they're looking at whether or not they can search somebody, whether or not they can stop somebody. It is the same standard our law enforcement should be using, and we're asking them to use when they are enforcing these ordinances for sit and lie or anti-camping. Why? Because we do not want there to be a floodgate of litigation that attorneys are going to make a bunch of money on. Attorneys are the ones who stand to make money. So when you look at 1380, look at it with a purview of how is this helping? It's not hurting anybody. The statutes that are already out there, if abused, would hurt folks. But if they're followed in an objectively reasonable standard, then we have some protections for both sides. It also removes a private cause of action, meaning you can't just go get a lawyer who's going to make a bunch of money off your lawsuit and go sue the city or the county or the state, right? So we're actually helping to stymie the lawsuits that we would expect. And we've already seen some lawsuits in Spokane over anti-camping ordinances. This is not new. We've just removed the guardrails that were in place through case law, and we're trying to put something in place that helps our cities and helps our unhoused folks. We have a history of using sit and lie in a very classist and racist way where our most vulnerable communities are then criminalized, given penalties, financial penalties. They have to overcome now all of these additional burdens that we've placed upon them. They were already not surviving. They were already not able to get a place to rent. They're already not going to the shelters that are provided if they're provided. There is a lot of layers that we have to unpack when we're trying to take care of people who are unhoused, people who are living in cyclical poverty, sometimes generational poverty, sometimes generational homelessness. We cannot just punish our way out of this situation and this problem. So for me, I want to impress upon folks in the public to really speak to the electeds and their representatives at the city, county, and state level to help them appreciate who we're talking about. We're talking about people. We're not going to just go sweep the streets of people, put them in a system that costs us even more money than trying to house these folks. So I've been a big proponent of this bill. If you've been watching any of our housing hearings, you've heard me speak on it. As an attorney, I feel very strongly that the objectively reasonable standard and removing a private cause of action is a way we can protect our cities from lawsuits, but also protect our unhoused folks on the street from being discriminated against and unfairly prosecuted under laws where they are simply just trying to take care of themselves.
Thank you so much for those responses. Just as a reminder, you can press 0 on your phone to ask a question. Next, we're going to go to a question from Adam about renting. Adam, you should now be live.
Well, thank you, guys. Hi, Tim. Hi, Marcus. I'm familiar with you. I'm not familiar with Natasha. I'm really appreciating this conversation overall. I think more than just my personal question, I got a random phone call and I answered it, and all of a sudden I get to hear from my representative. So I think this is insanely positive because I've been sitting in the dark for a little bit in terms of the communication and stuff, and I am so thrilled that, Natasha, you've been elected for our representative. And so, I mean, my little personal questions were, when we started the conversation, it was about renters and stuff. One of the problems that comes up is we're looking for a house or an apartment or something, and there are predatory renters that are charging $35 fees to just apply, and then they're just taking the money. Is there a provision that's coming up in the upcoming bill that you can put in there to just make sure that they're not doing that? And then I had another question about when it comes to your credit, and you're applying for an apartment or a house, they take the whole totality of that, or do they just take your rental history? So those are why dialed in, but I just want to say I'm really proud of you guys. And I had one tiny suggestion, maybe a text message before the phone call starts, like, hey, we're starting this. That would have been helpful, so this is like a random, like, oh, who's this 360 number? But anyway, I'm thrilled about this. Like, I'm almost goosebumps. Like, this is what we need to be doing.
Thanks, Adam, and thanks for your participation and your thoughts and thoughtfulness on this subject. I'll be honest with you, I believe they take the full credit score, but I don't know if Natasha, that's my understanding, but we should certainly try and follow up. And good tips on how to get more folks engaged, because we're trying to get our message out there. This is what we signed up for, and we really want more people communicating our way. As far as just renting overall, I don't know if there's anything specifically out there on kind of the getting people to fill out these fees for rental applications and how that could be curbed if it's been used in a predatory way. But we'll certainly look into it and see if it's quite possible. Hundreds of bills are introduced, and if we're on a committee of jurisdiction or something and we don't see it, we do a little research and we have great staff to connect with. So I'll look into that, and I don't know if Representative Hill or Representative Ormsby have more to add on that particularly.
Yeah, thanks, Marcus, or Senator Riccelli. This is Representative Hill. So they look at the whole credit reporting. The bill I'm working on would just help have positive reporting, and it's been done in other states, including Colorado, where they saw an increase, sometimes of up to 100 points for on-time rental payments. It still would go towards your entire credit history and report that they would be looking at. And I know, there's different credit scores that different agencies or industries will look at, whether you're doing a car loan versus renting. But speaking the other part of the question about fees, this is something I think that falls into our consumer protection committee, because I'm very much aware and familiar as a longtime renter of folks who do use the application fee as a way to just generate some additional incomes, where they have multiple applicants for one unit or limited number of units, and they're collecting a lot of fees, application fees, knowing that they probably don't need that many applicants and to collect that many fees for the number of rentals they have. But I do think that falls into our consumer protection and is something I'd be willing to look at and work on as well.
Yeah, we'll follow up with you, Adam. Good to hear your voice. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much. And to Adam's point of being very engaged, we're going to try something a little new here for telephone town halls, and I'm going to ask a poll question in which those who are on the line listening in can press a number on your phone and with your response. So tonight's poll question is, which issue do you feel most affects your daily life? Please press 1 for cost of housing, 2 for cost of basic needs like food, or press 3 for cost of health care. That question again is, which issue do you feel most affects your daily life? Press 1 for cost of housing, 2 for cost of basic needs like food, or 3 for cost of health care. Thank you so much for participating, everybody. We're now going to go to a live question from Randy about LGBTQ issues. Randy, you should be live.
Thank you. Hello, Senator Riccelli and Representatives Hill and Ormsby. Thank you for hosting this town hall for us. My question is about safety of our LGBTQ community. My husband and I recently went to Idaho, and we don't feel safe going there anymore. And so with Spokane being so close, proximity-wise to northern Idaho, and I remember when the white supremacy group there was shut down. What can Washington do, or is there a plan in place to help protect our LGBTQ community, and actually everyone in general, from the kind of hate that has been enabled by the recent events?
That is a great question in terms of where we're at and the attacks, the direct attacks that we're seeing on our LGBTQAI2+ community. I am working with our Legislative Black Caucus in terms of bringing attention to these issues as far as the intersectionality that this also brings to the table. We've got to make sure, especially with the border city that we are in Spokane with our neighbors over in Idaho, as you mentioned, needing to be really proactive and not be afraid to use our voice and speak up. Violation of rights, oppression at any level for any group, this is not new stuff. It's being recycled, and I know our trans community is particularly under attack. We've seen bills coming through the legislature here even trying to limit folks' ability to identify themselves, really going after our youth and minors, and we know this is going to impact resources. So I know how important it is that we are making sure we have in our budget funds that are going to go toward supporting these groups, that are going to go toward community investments and resiliency, that are nonprofit groups who've kind of taken that lead in order of offering services, guidance, counseling, protections, that they also their needs are going to be met in order to serve this population in our community. What I was saying earlier, too, about writing in to legislators and our governor and our attorney general, who is at the forefront of fighting these issues in terms of the Trump administration, making sure we know the impact that your stories have, whether you're able to show up in person and testify, show up online and testify, or just sign in without testifying, and then writing in and telling us your personal stories. It is a little bit of homework, but it is the way that we can turn around and say it's not me as an individual representative, right? It's not Senator Riccelli or Representative Ormsby. It is the constituents in our community and the districts that we represent, from Snoqualmie to Spokane, from Hilltop to Hilliard. These issues are impacting people everywhere, but we also need to make sure that we're getting resources to those areas that are in more desperate need, because we do have a lot of hate groups on our side of the state. We have a history of this, and we need to really make sure that we're ready to fight back in every which way that we can, both policy, but also in our neighborhoods.
Yeah, and thanks, Randy. And I just want to say that this is a front-of-mind issue in the legislature about protections for protected classes of folks. And I just want you to know that I support your right to love who you love.
This is Senator Riccelli, and I think both Representative Hill and Representative Ormsby nailed it. So thanks, Randy, for calling in.
Thank you so much for your responses. We're now going to go to a live question from Rose about people transitioning to supportive housing. Rose, you're now live.
Hi, my name is Rose Manning, and thank you guys for, all of this. It makes it nice. This is the first time I've gotten a phone call, so really appreciate it, and thank you all. I have concerns. I've lived in the same apartment for 8 years, and I see people, them moving people in who have been homeless, and then there's no supports for them, and then they get evicted. Is there something, that can be done to kind of help them? I'm sure there are, but it doesn't seem like it.
Thanks, Rose. It is a challenge. It is a challenge. So we have to have a whole continuum, right? When we encounter folks that are houseless, right? And whatever needs there are, and it's as individual. The needs are as individual as the person, right? We don't want to start lumping people together, but the biggest effort we have to maintain housing funding, which has taken a real hit because our method of funding it is real estate transactions, and given the economy and the price of homes, et cetera, those transactions aren't occurring as often as we had hoped, and so there's less. Our concerted effort here is to backfill that money that provides the transition throughout the continuum from folks we encounter without any that are houseless, all the way up and through getting them to transitional housing, permanent supportive housing, and hopefully to a point where they're in a stable enough environment are able to work and go out and do it on their own. But until that time, the state has a role in making sure that they're safe and secure. Everybody should, have a roof over their head, a bed under their back, and a meal at the table.
Yeah, thanks, Representative Ormsby. I would just add, Rose, this is Senator Riccelli. The wraparound services that we provide are fundamental, and whether that be job training, whether that be access to counseling, a whole list of services, I think really we should step up. And that's my values, and I believe the values of your 3rd Legislative District team. But let's just look at it from an economic standpoint. If that person falls back into houselessness, the services they'll need, whether it be potentially at the emergency room, whether it be through potentially our judicial system, et cetera, ends up costing way more than just providing the wraparound support they need. So we need to ensure that those services exist. We actually need to support more people going into the fields that can provide that support, whether it be in the social services, whether it be that peer-to-peer support. I think that from my standpoint, that's our obligation as we look at that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we're just trying to at least get people first off that first rung of basic needs being met.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that briefly. The rent stabilization bill that we mentioned earlier is one of the ways that we are going to be able to impact resources and services for our homeless and unhoused, because if we keep people in their homes now, then we have a smaller population of folks that we have to work on getting into that transitional and permanent housing situation. It's also, this is a great opportunity coming into this as a new representative, a new member, where we have these huge budget cuts that we have to make. We have this huge deficit. We got to get creative and innovative. And we are in one of the most, if not the most at this point, regressive tax states. Our state has enabled so many folks to build a great amount of wealth. And we're excited for that. There's nothing wrong with being wealthy, but the wealth gap that exists is the problem. We have not set up a tax system that requires folks to pay their fair share. Folks who are absolutely benefiting from all the benefits of our state, they should be excited that they were able to generate that amount of wealth and pay back into a system that they benefit more from than folks who have less resources than them. So when you look at some of the revenue bills that are going to be coming forward, get excited about raising revenue. Get excited about what we can put back into this economy, because to Marcus's point, it costs a lot more money to try to punish our way out of it and use a criminal justice system than it does to get the housing and the wraparound services folks need to stabilize and then build on their own. We do have to make sure that people have the tools and resources, so these aren't handouts, but these are a way for them to step up and build back, especially for our folks. We have folks working full-time who are barely making ends meet. And if they do run into a situation like a medical emergency and fall through the cracks, we need to make sure that they can build back up, and that's what the safety net's about. I know there's sometimes criticism about how we got into this deficit, but remember, we just came through a really trying time with COVID that we're still recovering from. The safety net we built was necessary. The amount of people who fell through the cracks that needed that safety net was bigger than we could have ever imagined. And we did the right things as a legislator, and we made sure that those supports were there. And now we got to figure out a way that we can not only pay for where we're at, but we can keep investing and growing going forward, and make sure that we have a better tax system that reflects the resources and the wealth that we have in our state.
Thank you so much for those responses. We're going to go next to a question from Tawny about House Bill 1908. Tawny, you are now live.
Hi, good evening, Marcus and Tim, and nice to meet you, Natasha. My name is Tawny Brown. I live in Spokane. I'm proud to be a member of the 3rd District and everything that you do for us at the Capitol. The reason why I was calling in today is I saw that House Bill 1908, which is to save Rainier and Yakima Valley schools, was slated to and introduced by you, Natasha. Thank you very much for supporting the bill. But it didn't get a hearing. What can we do to try and either sneak it in under the deadline, which I know is coming up, to get a hearing, or ultimately referencing to your last answer, Natasha, which is asking the wealthiest to pay their fair share so that we're not balancing the budget on our most vulnerable population and impacting the citizens of Spokane, who will really ultimately feel feel that overflow if Yakima Valley School or Rainier schools do close. So that is my question, and thanks so much for everything you guys do.
Hi, Tony. This is Timm Ormsby. Thanks for the question. And I tracked that, and I'm not seeing it in the same light. So yeah, the previous governor, Governor Inslee, had in his budget proposal the closure of Yakima Valley School and Rainier in Buckley. We're grappling with, the providing services for our disabled population and state-operated living alternatives in adult family homes and in a bunch of places. And we're just really going to have to unpack the impacts of the closures of those facilities. And I just didn't see the connection that you made with 1908, so maybe that deserves a follow-up where you can clue me in a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think it's just whether or not can we receive a hearing with closing. We have deadlines that are agreed to. We have cutoffs coming up. That one would potentially be necessary, a budget one, but I don't know. And so we'll have to dive into it, and I'm just not as familiar as the House bill. So thanks, Tawny, and we can circle back with you.
Great. Thank you so much for those responses. So we're coming up on the end of our telephone town hall this evening. It's all the time we have for questions tonight. Thank you again for joining the conversation. And we couldn't get to every question, but if you pressed 0 to ask a question, please stay on the line to leave a voicemail for your 3rd District lawmakers. I'm now going to turn it over to Representative Ormsby to give some closing remarks. Rep. Ormsby?
Thank you so much, Megan. I really appreciated the poll question in there. Didn't see that coming myself. I want to thank all the folks that dialed in and tuned in for taking some time out of your busy day to join us and get this brief update from your 3rd District lawmakers. I am thrilled to do this work with these very capable people, and I'm thrilled to represent the good people, hardworking people in Spokane in our district. And this is just a reinforcement to me about how well informed our constituents are, and both on the things that you agree with and the things that you don't agree with. All that input is valuable. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is State Senator Marcus Riccelli. And for those folks we didn't get to, there's an opportunity to leave a voicemail, and we'll work through those. So we look forward to that opportunity. And I'm just going to end the way I started. A robust democracy can only exist with an active and engaged citizenry. And you did your part tonight. Some of you weren't expecting a call. We're so happy that you joined and shared your thoughts and listened in. We'll look for many ways to engage. But in the meantime, please check out my website, official website. Sign up for our e-newsletter. We try to get out updates about what we're doing here. And once again, it's an honor to serve.
Yes, and Representative Hill here, as a new member, I'm just really excited to be in this seat that you all put me in. So make sure you're reaching out, that we hear from you. I know some of you have reached out, and so as a new member, we appreciate your patience as we get our office set up and we figure out our protocols, our systems, so that we can engage with you. Having this engagement on this call means a lot. I mean, it says a lot, too, just about the participation we have from our constituents back home. We feel far away over here in Olympia. I come home on weekends with children, so I'm trying to keep that connection going. So reach out. My call to action for all of you is reach out. Keep contacting us. Send us letters. Track our bills. Let us know your thoughts and ideas, because there may be opportunities for us to work with you to create better bills and some new bills that we can introduce next session. So stay engaged. Encourage other folks in our community. There's so much going on in the world right now. We're going to have to really look to our neighbors and those closest to us in order to make it through some tough times. But I think there's some light here, and it's really important that we keep you all engaged. So don't hesitate to reach out.